Well, hello and welcome to episode 50. Oh, that's cool, isn't it? I didn't think I'd ever get to 50. Um, I'm still here. I'm not in prison. I've not been arrested. I did want to start the show with like a garden fence, so it looked like I was behind bars, but I couldn't find one. I wasn't going to buy one, so anyway, we're here to talk about radical threats. But before we do that, I thought I would just remind everyone that we are a knitting podcast, and I thought I would show a bit of knitting. And I'm going to start with Make Orange Great Again. So it's started today, although you could have cast on a little bit earlier. I wasn't too fussed about that. And we're going to be running from now until the end of September, and it's a make along for pretty much any craft, knitting, crochet, tatting, whatever that is, cross stitch, spinning, anything. The rules are that it has to be at least 50% orange. Now, any other colours are fine, and any shade of orange. I've been getting lots of questions of people saying, "Is this orange? Is this orange?" The thing is, if you know whether it's orange or not, and the problem is when I'm looking at the image through the screen, it doesn't always read right. So I can't really say for you whether something's orange. You need to, decide for yourself. So you can do any project at all, and the small print, if you like, is that for every 50 grams of orange fibre that you use, you get one entry into the prize draw. Now, there's going to be three prizes. There's going to be, originally I was going to actually get skeins of yarn from each one, but I'm going to get vouchers because then you can choose, the winners can choose their own. So we've got a voucher for Aweneth yarns, we've got a voucher for Mystery Mouse yarns, and we've got a voucher for Chicken Lady Fibre Arts yarns. So I think each one is going to be worth about $30, I think. Yeah, it will be. I don't know why I'm saying I think. It will be because I'm buying them. So I don't know whether Holly from Mystery Yarns and Awenith do $30 vouchers though. So I will have a word with them to see, and we might have to do something without a voucher, and I'll just pay them directly. I don't know. Anyway, you don't need to know that, do you? So I thought I'd show you my orange project. Now it's a bit tricky to show. Oh, I'm losing all my balls. It's a bit tricky to show because it's still on the needles, and it's inside out. It's the yoke for the Anchor sweater, Anker, which is by Petite Knits, I believe. I think. Now I raced through this. Really enjoyed knitting this. It's just a 1x1 rib, and for some reason, it wasn't even remotely tedious. Whereas if I'm doing a 1x1 rib normally, it does my head in. I can't wait to finish. But this, I really enjoyed it. And I do think it's because of the colour. Now, I'm not a fan of orange, as I've said a few times, but something about it at the moment is really kind of spurring me on to keep going. I think it's because I used different shades of orange. I think it's because I was keen to see what the next one would look like. And in between, I don't know if you can see, it's probably not showing in this light very well, but I've just done one row of teal colour in between, just to break it up a little bit. And I'm on the point now where the yoke is done, and she, a little bit like the ranunculus, she has some sort of raglan increases just to create a little bit more armhole depth. So I'm just at that point, but I'm also at the point where I don't know what I'm going to do in terms of yarn colours. Some of these are more orange than others. I'm readily, admitting that. But I've started with the plain knitting now. So this is the plain one. And I've gone with a darker, I don't know, I think it might be copper, I think it is. So that's definitely an orange to me anyway. But I don't know whether I should buy more of that single colour and do the rest of it in that one colour, or whether I should continue changing the colours. But the thing is, because the yoke's done with this particular pattern, I don't know whether it's going to look right to continue having stripes if it's just plain knitting. So if anyone's got any suggestions, feel free. So let me know whether you think I should just buy more of that colour to the lot number's not going to be the same, but I'll have to alternate them, won't I, if I do buy the same. So that's my orange project. Now I've also got another slightly orange project. Is it this one? Yeah, this is a blanket that I have absolutely no business starting at all. It's I saw it. Did I see it on Ravelry? No, I think it was on YouTube. I think you know when you get those YouTube suggestions, and it was a blanket called the Trellis something blanket. I can't remember exactly now. So what you do, you make 16 crochet squares, and so what I've been doing, you probably can't see very well on this, but I kind of like production crochet. So what I did was, because I knew there was going to be 16 squares, I made 16 of that mustard colour first in the middle, then I did the orange 16 of those, and then I did this kind of coppery colour 16 of those. And now I've just started with the green outline of that. So I'm going to do the other 15 of those before I get onto the next bit. So the idea being that, you know, you'd think by now that I'd know myself, and I'm only just learning about my own crafting quirks, if you like. And I know that if I made the full square, I'd never finish it because I would get bored. Whereas this, I am getting bored. By the time I've done about 10 of them, I am bored. But then I've only got 6 left to do, and then it kind of spurs me on. So I am going to continue doing it the same way. So as long as it's the same colour, I'll finish each piece. So I think from now on, I think after this green, I think it's a cream. I think you do that for 3 or 4 rounds. I think like granny square stitch. So I'll do all of the cream, then I'll do all of the cream, and so on and so on. So this is the kind of orangey stuff at the moment. So I feel justified in doing that. Although this is it now. There's no more orange after this. Now it's going to be like duck egg blue. It's going to be a cream, and then this. That's not going to show up very well, probably because of all of the teal and whatever around the screen, but it's a really nice duck egg blue. So that's my crochet project. Now I'm running out of space. Now I've got everything else has been put on hold for the moment while I finish my mum's birthday present. So this has to be done by this week, so I haven't got long to do. Luckily, it's in really chunky yarn. It's acrylic. Bonus Hayfield bonus chunky, and I'm doing it on 8mm needles, which for normal knitters that would probably be the equivalent of a 6mm. So it gives you an idea of what the gauge is. This is the pattern. Now, not many of you will probably like this, but my mum is she's very beige when it comes to knitwear. Well, anything really. Anything she wears tends to be beige, just different shades of beige. And so knitting for her is like a miserable experience because anyone who's knit anything for any length of time in beige knows it just kills the soul. Anyway, we went to a wool shop, a new wool shop in South Manchester, and this garment had been made and was on a coat hanger, and she immediately went to it and drew her eye. And she asked me if I'd knit it. So I was so happy that she wanted something with colour in it that I would have knitted whatever, really. I mean, it is a very, very, very remedial pattern. You know, this is a beginner pattern. You know, you could give this to your 6-year-old child to do. There's barely... Well, the only thing I would say about it is intarsia. Or intarsia. I don't know how you're supposed to say that, but I say intarsia. And you cast on all of that at the bottom in one go and you change the colour. Well, I hate intarsia, absolutely despise it. So I've knitted it in columns. So, and then I'm going to join it. I'd rather seam than do intarsia. So I'll just show you. I mean, there's no point in taking everything out, but just to get an idea, this is what I'm knitting. So it's very, very quick. I should have it done by the end of this weekend, I hope. Because each square, you know, it finishes really quick. And just as you're getting a bit bored of doing garter stitch, you've got a new colour to work with. Whoa, you get a new colour to work with. So it's kind of a nice little project. It's funny, when you're on a live, suddenly you can't do things that you can normally do. You know, like afterwards it. Right, I've got a finished object. It's like, how has that ever happened? Can you believe it? I have a finished object. There's a lot to say about this. I'm not sure whether I'm going to say it all today. This is a very, very old whip. I think one of the cats is caught it. Got moths, so it's a vest, and it's my own design, and it's modular because I'm a larger size. I really don't enjoy knitting my size. Can you hear me okay? I've just realised my microphone's out of the way. Is that better? That probably is better now, isn't it? God, I'm so amateur. What was I saying? Yeah, because I'm a larger size, I don't like knitting in the round at my size because it drives me insane. It's very, very boring. So anyway, this was knitted in panels, and there was a few little experiments going on with this. And I have yet to decide whether I would ever knit it again or even write it up as a pattern. I don't know, because there are things that I would definitely change. So one thing I would change straight away is that I probably wouldn't do the garter pieces. So the stripes have a kind of top and tailed with garter, and I wish I'd just kept that as plain stockinette, or done the whole striping garter, one or the other. I don't know what would have looked better. Same with these vertical lines that go up and down. They would have been better, I think. Excuse me. So that is one thing I didn't like about it. Now, the other thing that was a kind of a surprise, and it shouldn't have been really, is the way I designed it. Is I wanted the V-neck, but I didn't want to have to stop and, you know, put stitches on hold and then carry on knitting on one side and then do it on the other side. I actually wanted to do it all in one piece. So I did the V with central double decreases. So the way I worked it all out was at the very beginning. Let me find the beginning. So this middle panel, which is, let me get it central. I can't do it. What's the matter with me? Here we go. That's it. So that's the middle panel. To try and make it look the same, that line down that middle, I started off with a slip stitch in the middle. So this very, very first, above the edge in here, this very first sort of panel is just plain stockinette, no shaping at all. But I did the very center stitch as a slip stitch just to try and raise it a little bit. It doesn't look exactly like the rest of it, but it does have does give that bit of illusion. And then, as I went up each panel, I increased slowly the number of central double decreases I did. So I think in this second panel, I've got it written down, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I think I did a central double decrease every 4 rows or something like that. Then in the next panel, I did a central double decrease every 3 rows or every 2 rows, and so on. I kept increasing that until in the very last panel, it's a central double decrease every row. So that includes the wrong side rows as well, because it was knitted flat. So it gets quite tricky to do these central double decreases when you're doing a central double decrease purl-wise on top of a central double decrease knit-wise. God, these cameras, they confuse me. I don't know which way I'm supposed to pull it. Oh, well, you have to deal with that. Sorry. So what I liked about this was I liked the way the stripes kind of get more, is it acute? They get more acute as they go up. So they start off in a straight line and then they slowly bend more and more until the very last one, which is the kind of V shape that I like. So some V shapes are more like a 45-degree angle, and I don't like those. I always think they look a bit homemade, you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm sure Therese is probably knitting one with a 45-degree angle. Sorry about that. Anyway, but the thing that I didn't even consider, and it's completely obvious when you think about it, is I didn't consider how much of the width would change. So from the bottom, it's wider than the top. And obviously, thinking about it now, it's because I was doing more decreases. But I did increase to offset that. And this is the thing that confused me. So when I was doing when I was doing a central double decrease on every row, I was increasing 2 stitches at either end. So I was getting rid of 4 stitches in the middle every knit row and purl row, if you know what I mean. So 2 on each. And then I was increasing, but it still pulled in. So if I did it again, I would have to try and work out how many extra stitches it needs. So the stitch count isn't going to look like it will work right, if you know what I mean. There'll be more stitches at the top than at the bottom, but the bottom is probably going to still be a bit wider. So that's what I didn't think would happen. And just to compare the back, I didn't bother doing it on the back. I just did it straight stockinette stitch on the back. And I did exactly the same for the side panels as well. So on the side panels, it's almost like a V-neck. The armhole is another V-neck, basically. And it's done exactly the same way, except it's not as deep. And that worked really well. Now, the other thing that I wasn't expecting when I finished this is because of that, it was more obvious before it was blocked. But where I did the central double decreases, I don't know whether you can see, I'm folding this right on that double decrease line here. And I don't know whether you can see it. It's more obvious to me than it probably will be on the screen. But it actually curves. It curves out, quite pronounced. There you go. You can see it there. So that is, it. Rather than being straight, you can see that curve. So it does that on both sides, and it does it at the front. Now, under normal circumstances, I'll show you the front one as well. Under normal circumstances, that's probably not going to be. Can you see that? You can't see it on the front one so much. It's not going to be something that you want, but because I'm fat, it's actually a really good. Because, well, I'm not going to say it's not, everybody wears their fat differently, don't they? But my back is straight, and if I was overthinking sweater design, my back would just be standard size because I don't have the width at the back. All my weight is in the front. So, and maybe a bit at the side. So that kind of accommodates for my belly and my love handles. So I was kind of pleased that happened. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not sure that I could make it as a pattern, because I don't know what that would look like on somebody who was slim. I can't imagine how it's going to hang, you know what I mean? Now, I haven't done any photos of this yet. I've tried it on. It does fit. But the problem I've got is that it's too hot at the moment. I know you don't believe it in England, but it is. It's actually too warm. So I'm waiting for the right moment to take some photos and wear it outside because it's cashmere. It's 80% merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it's really, really nice, really warm. Oh, the yarn is Tuscan knits. So the brown, the dark brown, the reddy brown is Tuscan knits. This greeny colour is Tuscan knits. And the orange, which I can't remember what Tuscan Knits named hers, because this was obviously so long ago that I got those yarns. But the orange is by Euphoria Knits, and I think the colourway is My Dad's Couch or My Granddad's Couch, I think it might be called. And this is Euphoria Knits as well, and I think I can tell you what that's called because I've got a scale of it here. That's called Harvest Moon, and that's what I've got left of. And that I've got left of Tuscan Knits yarn. So that's my finished object. Now I'm hoping by the time, because we've Tabitha and I are going to be doing another Knitler and Tradither at the end of next week, I think. So I'm hoping that my mum's sweater will be finished by then, and possibly the grey crochet sweater, which I don't have with me at the moment. So that's stuff that I've got on the needles at the moment. The other thing I wanted to show you is this is connected to Make Orange Great Again. I don't know whether it was on Knit Night with Therese and Liz, but I wanted a stitch marker with baked beans on it. Oh, does that show? Let me put. Oops, I have to do it that way so you can't see. I'm not good with this whole YouTubey thing. So this is a UK. What do you call people who do these? Model maker? I don't know what you call them. Her username is Chapel View Crafts. Hopefully you'll be able to see that at the bottom there. Maybe Chapel View Crafts. And the baked beans one is the one I wanted, and then I ordered some mystery ones because I didn't know what I wanted, and I'm actually really pleased with them because they're so cute, and so the beans look real. They've got the exact shine of baked beans on toast, honestly. And there's a carrot cake again. I thought, well, that's orange, isn't it? Make Orange Great Again. There's a pie. Well, I'm not sure what that one is. There's one there. It's got like an orange pie on the top. Maybe that's pumpkin pie, do you think? Or a biscuit? I'm not sure what that one is, but it's got orange on the top. So whoever the lady is that does it at Chapel View Crafts, maybe she knew I was doing a Make Orange Great Again. So I don't know. So that's that. Now, the only other thing that I bought recently is a handbag. No, it's not a handbag. As people know, I love the Tunisian interchangeable crochet set from AliExpress. So I think the ones I've now got 3 sets because I use them for everything crochet. So I end up losing them, or I don't always put the cables on. So I just keep getting them, and they're so cheap, and I just think I can't have enough of these because they're really good. They're the best crochet hooks I've ever had. Well, I'm a Chow-Goo knitting needle person. I love Chow-Goo. The sharper the needle, the better, as far as I'm concerned. You know, if it stabs between your fingernail and your finger, that's how I like it. Although, and it does do that to me. Well, anyway, I bought this set. This set was, I think it was £17, which is early 20s American dollars. So it might be about 24 American dollars, maybe between 20 and 24, I think. And I hope you can see these, but the needle points are seen, well, they look sharper. You can see the points there, than Chow-Goo. Now, these are obviously for socks, these ones, because you've got a small needle and a large needle. Well, I'll do that YouTube thing where you put your hand up. Then you can look at my... Don't think that's going to work, is it? No. Can you see how sharp that is? I don't know. Well, I know these are going to be great for how I knit. And the other thing that I like about the AliExpress sets is that the cables that come with them, I mean, this is a tiny one. Obviously, it's for sock knitting. They're all twist, you know, the ones that swivel. I don't know what the real word for that is. And that makes all the difference for me. It stops me getting pain, you know, in my wrists from knitting or crocheting for too long. So I'm going to cast something on as soon as I've finished my mum's sweater. So this is going to be an excuse to cast something new on to test these out. So I don't know what I'll make. I might just cast on a sock because I desperately need socks, and I need to find a good sock pattern that isn't going to bore me to tears. So I need something that's got some interest in it. So any suggestions, send them my way. It has to be a heel flap and gusset though. I can't be doing with these silly tomato heels or whatever they're called. They never fit me. So I think that's all of my purchases and things that I'm willing to show you that I have as whips, I think. Just let me check if we have any comments so far. Oh yeah, so the speakers better, the sound's better. Yeah, sorry about if it ever sounds shit, you should tell me. If you can't see it just in the corner here, you need to remind me.
Oh, the other Diana's thinking that the one that is like a biscuit might be cheese on toast. It might be. It's kind of got like dots around the circle bit of it, so I'm thinking it's a pie or a biscuit. I don't know. Cat loves the sweater. The colours, stripes, and stripe layout give me a bohemian vibe. Is that the make Orange Great Again one, the anchor one, or the one I did, the vest? Someone says I'd love that as a cardigan. Again, not sure which one. And Liz has got one of those sets. Hers a wood. Yes, I got the wooden set, and I really like that, which is why I thought I would try the metal set. I struggle a bit with the wooden sets, though. I use them more when I'm trying to think if I'm struggling with a project. I know this might sound weird, but sometimes I just don't. You know, when you just don't have that love for a project. Sometimes, if they're free, I'll try some wooden needles or I'll try a change of needle because sometimes that makes all the difference. Sometimes. What's that? Especially if the front was the back. Which one? The vest. Not sure what that relates to. Sounds funny anyway. Well, so shall we dive into Radical Threads magazine? So I need to start this with a little caveat. I'm actually sad for them. I have to say this. I don't take any pleasure in the fact that the magazine is now no more, which I will get into shortly. That has never been them existing has never been a beef of mine at all. Some of the things about their politics and things do, and I have to say that I 100% believe that Radical Threads was a racist, black supremacist publication. Absolutely no question of that in my mind, and I'm going to explain why in a second. So first of all, for the timeline of this, hopefully you can see that on the screen. They did a Kickstarter, and that was the date on here says that it was last updated on April the 17th, 2021. So their first issue predated Blocked magazine, so probably by almost a year. Now this becomes quite interesting to me because of what happened to Block magazine and some of the characters that are involved in this Radical Threads. I'll get to that in a bit. But they did a Kickstarter, and 674 people pledged $41,503 American dollars so that they could start their magazine. Now, they weren't doing an online magazine like mine. They were doing a full-on glossy, magazine shelf publication. So, I'll give them the credit. From what I saw, I mean, I never saw a physical one, but I saw photos of it. They were, the production value was excellent, I have to say. It was like any on-the-shelf magazine that you would see of that particular type. So I don't mean the one with a staple down the middle, although I don't know whether Radical Threads had a staple down the middle. I'm assuming it didn't. So they were going for top market, I think. That's what their intention was. So their little tagline at the top of the Kickstarter here is a magazine to create a safe space for Black, Brown, Indigenous, and melanated people in the crafting, food, and micro farming communities. Oh, no, I just find it exhausting because I suppose we have to remember this was. When was the George Floyd thing? That was 5 years ago, wasn't it? So it will have been around this time, wouldn't it? So I think, was that the middle of 2021 when he got himself killed by taking drugs and acting like an idiot? So they were, a lot of the Black, Brown, Indigenous, and melanated people in the crafting world really jumped on that to try and use it for their advantage. Now, I want to. It's shit that we have to do these sort of explanations and caveats because it should just be obvious. But whenever I'm talking about black, brown, melanated people, whatever the word is this week, when I'm criticizing them, I'm talking about the particular people that have been surrounding the craft world and have been bullying people, grifting off people. I'm not talking about, your average black, brown knitter. I'm not talking about those people. If they're not harming anybody, I'm not bothered. I don't care about you. You don't, there's nothing more interesting about you than your knitting anyway, to me. You know what I mean? Whereas these people are racists and black supremacists. So I have an issue with that. And that's when I'm talking about this, they're the people I'm talking about. I'm not talking about ordinary people. So the thing that annoys me here is this safe space. I don't know anything about micro farming. And presumably in the food community, recipes, I don't know. I can't say I know much about that, but I do know about the crafting community. Well, what's this safe space that is needed in the crafting community? It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm being corrected here. George Floyd was May 2020. So, yeah, so this is pretty much the year after, isn't it? So we'd had all of those riots and the mostly peaceful burning down and destroying of things and killing people. We had all of that, didn't we? And then radical threads emerged. Because with the George Floyd thing, you had some very prominent black supremacists in the knitting world who really latched onto that and made a lot of money out of it and, destroyed, the whole Christy Glass thing was based on that. And when they went for Stephen B, that was right in the aftermath of George Floyd. They were out for blood at that time, some of these people. Anyway, I'm really, really waffling. So they started this Kickstarter and they got $41,503. Now that is pretty bloody amazing. And a lot of that will have come from probably people, mainly white people, that somehow were fooled into thinking that they had to become white knights and save black crafters from themselves in some way. It's like anybody else, you're supposed to just get on with it and do it yourself, whereas, I do think that these white people that support these Kickstarters for black businesses, I think they're racist. I think that they think that they're superior and therefore they have to help these people who are unable to do these things by themselves. Whereas myself, and I know other people in my groups that I'm in, we treat everybody the same. And it's like, you've all got to work hard. Everybody has. Nobody should get anything extra for free. But anyway, waffle. So the first person that I want to talk about that's involved with this Radical Threads magazine is this is funny. I can't even see the screen now. Give me a minute. That's better. I can see now. So on their Instagram, before they got their money that they wanted, they started off this Meet the Radical Threads team. Now, they only ever did one of these, and this is Caroline Dick, she's called. She has pronouns, so straight away I'm rolling my eyes. She, her, though, so it's kind of like, well, what's the point of that? And this is the bit that I found interesting. For her ethnicity, she says she's Tahitian, but indigenous, and Irish. And I think this really highlights something for me. Now, if you're Irish and you live in Ireland, you're indigenous. You're an indigenous Irish person. The same way for me, I'm an indigenous Englishman. My ancestors have always lived in England for as way back, for longer than, for example, the Maoris have lived in New Zealand, and longer than the Bantu and the Zulus have lived in South Africa, for example. So why did her being indigenous Tahitian mean more than her being indigenous Irish? So straight away, I have a bit of an issue with this because it's like she's trying to say one is more important than the other. And it's almost like the Irish part is something that she's had to put on there, but she doesn't really want to. She's, kind of, it's probably slightly better than English, but not much. but nowhere near in the league of, say, African or Indian. So she's got to make a big deal of being an indigenous Tahitian, not even just a Tahitian. The the rest of this is kind of like, not very interesting, really. So she's got her hobbies, which are all standard. She grew up and lived in the traditional territory of the, can't say the Lukwugan. I don't know how you say that, peoples. They'll always say, how dare he not learn how to say it? Well, no, I don't need to. So that's in the southern Gulf Islands of British Columbia. So that's in Canada, isn't it? And she's just returned there after living in Sequepec territory, which is in the southern interior of British Columbia, for 20 years. So she's clearly associated herself with the native North Americans there, or the indigenous North Americans there. Talks about working as in the fiber industry, blah, blah, blah. And then at the bottom she puts, I love the concept of Radicle Threads magazine. There is so much incredible knowledge and skill, beautiful stories, art, and so much more that has not been given the space to shine. I am excited to see this and other ventures breaking through the stagnation that has held this industry for so long. And then there's every kind of BIPOC hashtag that you can think of there. Now, this is the full team. Now, for some reason, they didn't do the profiles for the other two. No idea why. But this was the intro that was on the Kickstarter page. So here we've got, I think her name's Shoa. Then there's Shoa on the left, Elizabeth in the middle, and Caroline on the right. And they're exasperated with traditional publications using Black, Brown, Indigenous, and melanated people as tokens after decades of ignoring our existence. And this is, I find this kind of funny because it's a bit like, you can't do right for doing wrong. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're white, you're wrong. So if you let people get on with their own thing and leave them to it, then you're ignoring them. But if you invite them to the table of your publication or your project, whatever that is, then you're tokenizing people. So my thing has always been with Block Magazine is anybody can read it, and it's out there for free. Anybody can take part in it. If either of any of these three would like to submit anything for a future issue, I'll consider putting it in. I won't, it doesn't matter to me what color skin somebody is or what ethnicity they are, but I will never go out looking, because I've never had to go out looking for a particular person, because that is token, it is token. So, but you can't win, you can't get it right for these people. And the reason for that is because they are anti-white racists. They just don't like white people. So that's the team. Now, this again is some of the, I'll only read bits of this out because I'm aware that it can get a bit boring. So Radicle Threads is a BIMP grassroots company. So BIMP, that's the new one now, isn't it? You're not allowed to say BIPOC anymore. So obviously from the previous page, obviously things have changed by then. And now it's Black, Brown, Indigenous and melanated people, which is ridiculous because, like I said before, I'm Indigenous to England, and every single person on the planet, apart from maybe albinos, are melanated. And I'm sure albinos have some melanin, although I don't know. So it's a bit like I don't think they understand what melanated people are, and they don't understand what indigenous people are. They just think that's anti-white. Because that's what they mean by this. That's all it is. So their mission is to uplift, amplify, and empower the BIMP people and their voices to share our knowledge, skills, and experiences with the goal of increasing accessibility for all. But that's a lie. Because the goal isn't to increase accessibility for all. It's only to increase accessibility for anybody who isn't white. I think that is the key, that they're, the thing that is unsaid there. So they wanted something that reflected change and growth. And according to the dictionary, the radicle is part of a plant embryo that develops into the primary root. So that's why they've spelt, because often people have been saying they spelt it wrong. And I think I thought they spelt it wrong initially, but it's the other, it's a homonym, is it, or homophone? It's a homophone, isn't it? Yeah. So radical is the roots of a plant of some kind. And then they're saying radical, as in with a different spelling, are people advocating for complete, thorough social change that supports a progressive reform in marginalized communities, blah, 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 blah. And then threads are about the connections that we form as we go through life. We, as people, are connected through this invisible thread that shapes our intentions, again, blah, blah, blah. So radical threads is the germination of something. I can't see what that word is because on my screen there's something covering it, the page numbers covering it, so I can't see what that is. But I'm sure you can. So the next slide. The vision for the magazine. So we want to publish the work of didnt across all mediums of art, creative expression, artistic representation, and way of life. Our issues will be filled with designs, recipes, maker stories, farming, and all these other things, which you think, well, fine. I've got nothing against them having a magazine that is predominantly aimed at didnt, but it's the fact that they completely ostracize white people from this until it came to money, basically. So now this is they're explaining what the money is going to be spent on. So it's going to be getting the first issue together, compensating our photographer and contributors. Now this is where I think they made their mistake. I'll come back to that. Building a web platform to support the magazine and community, publication software for the issues, graphic designers, tech editors, and models compensation, legal and accounting fees. Okay. I think they really thought they were going to start running at Vogue level, as if they had all of that money and all of that infrastructure already there. They were starting from nothing, presumably. Now, I think Shoa does have a history in publishing somewhere, probably in London, because I think she's from Malaysia. She then lived in London for quite a few years, and I think that's where she worked for some magazine of some kind. And then she moved to Texas, I think it is, in America. So I think she was the technical side of everything, I think, in terms of the magazine. But this bit where they're compensating the photographer and contributors, I think they set up themselves for failure at that point, because if you're not anything yet, you can't really offer money in this way. They'll have been paying way too much over the odds, because the whole thing was about compensating the black and brown people for what they're worth, and they'll be overinflating that because they think they're worth more than any other photographer and contributor and so on. So they were being too ambitious, I think. Not sure what legal and accounting fees they would have. Presumably it's because there were 3 of them, so they were probably working out who owned what and so on. Now, there were different levels of support, but every single level, so right from the smallest amount that you could donate right to the top, which I think was $150, everybody got the same thing. So you got a sticker, you got an enamel pin, you got a set of coasters, you got a mug, a notebook, 2 skeins of hand-dyed yarn, and a copy of the magazine. Everybody got that, I think. I don't know about the skeins of yarn. They not everyone might have got that. So at least you got something. I have to say, at first I thought it was just goodwill and people didn't get anything for the money. Then they say risks and challenges, and I get out to roll my eyes. As you're all aware, COVID is making things extremely difficult, but we're working hard to navigate blah, 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 blah. We appreciate your support and understanding. Yeah, so straight away, they were kind of letting people know that things weren't going to run smoothly almost before they started by putting this, I think. Anyway, so these were the levels. So you could have a $10 one, and there were 78 of those. And I don't think you got anything, actually. Yeah, so here we go. Some of them did get more. So that's just about... Yeah, that's just about doing it for the love of doing it. You didn't get anything for that level. $15, you got a sticker and a pin. Then for the $25, you got the sticker, the pin, and the coasters. Then for $45, you got a sticker, the pin, the coasters, and a notebook. For $45, that one was, wasn't it? Then for $60, you got all of that plus a mug. I think that's right, isn't it? Did I miss anything off that one? Yeah, and then $90, you got all of that plus one skein of yarn from Birch Hollow Fibers for $90. That's a lot, isn't it, for one skein of yarn? And then there's another one for $90. This is a separate one, and that's the one where you get Shona's yarn instead. So you had a choice of which one you joined there. Then there's another one for $90, and that again is everything else, but just one skein of yarn, but from a different dyer, Spirit Song Studio. 150. So these were the highest ones. So this was all of that, and you got the first issue. So you had to basically you had to be giving them $150 to even get the first issue, which I find quite weird. I think, right from, if you're, giving money to kickstart a magazine, at the very least, you want to get a copy of that magazine, surely. The next 150, the difference with these is that you get to choose which of the yarns you want. You only get one skein of yarn by the looks of it. Yeah, you only get the one skein of yarn. So for the 350 options, one skein of yarn, one magazine, and then all the other tat, as I would call it. So whether that's worth it, I don't know. But at least people were getting something, which is more than some other people do with Kickstarters and things. Now, over the 5 years, they released 5 issues, but I can't find the 5th issue anywhere. So I don't know whether that has even been released yet. I'm not sure. And the first issue, so the prices here are a little bit deceiving, because these are the prices for digital copies. So, and they're on sale now, but originally they were all $25 each for a PDF. So let that sink in for a second. $25 for a PDF magazine. For the hard copy magazine, it was $30. So why there's only a $5 difference? I think that because I'm assuming postage and packaging was added later at the checkout. So why the digital copies were so expensive, I don't know, because I think that's a rip-off. I can see why the hard copies were $30, because when you look in, because I've looked into this with Blocked, when you look into getting things published, because of the scale of it, it ends up being quite expensive. When you talk about, say, Vogue Knitting or whoever, they'll be, the amounts that they'll get printed off are going to be way more than Radicle Threads would be able to, or Blocked magazine would be able to. So that's why it's so much more. But I quibble over buying a book, a hardback book for $25. I'm like, that's a bit much. I'll see if I can get it on paperback for cheaper. It's, I don't know. I just found it a little bit greedy is the word. Especially when they'd already had $47,000 before they'd even done anything. So so I don't know how many. I'd love to know how many copies they sold, how many they printed, and how many they sold, because the amount of money that was coming in, it'd be nice to be able to work out with some kind of assurity, is that the right word, of knowing whether it was poor business or whether it was something else that caused their downfall in the end. So they're the 4 issues. Now, before we get to this, I think I've got this a little bit in the wrong order. Let me go forward a bit. Yeah, here. So at a certain point, and is there a date on there? He's saying 2 years ago. So I don't know the date exactly. And they were struggling. So already they were struggling, and I think they'd only released. Thank you, Tomsky. That's really kind of you. Dropping some funds to allow me to buy a hardback book. Any book? Can I buy any book with that, or do you want to buy a particular book? Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Forgot what I was saying then. Yeah, so there's my bit of grift, by the way. So yeah, couldn't you have given me 17,000, Tomsky? Come on, look at what you're up against here. So they were struggling and they couldn't afford. I think it was issue 3. They couldn't afford to get issue 3 released, so they did a GoFundMe and they raised another $17,635. Now this is free money. You know, this didn't come with a promise of anything. So all together, they've had from donations, I think it works out about $59,000. And it wants me to get the Communist Manifesto. I've already got the PDF of that, but I suppose I could buy it in hardback. Or Mao's Red Book. Should I get that one? But what I thought was interesting, well, actually, what was interesting, I'll come to that in a second, but this is what they put as their reason for doing the GoFundMe. So we are Shoba, Elizabeth, and Caroline, 3 members of the fibre community. We're also Babimp. We have to keep putting that in there, keep stressing it, Babimp. And in the words of our friends at Lola Bean Yarn Co., if it isn't obvious by now, nobody is coming to save us. We must save ourselves. Put another way, if folks don't want us at their tables or in their spaces, then we need to go out in this world and build our own tables and create our own spaces. We, as a collective, are no strangers to doing this. Well, I just want to say, well, welcome to adulthood. They think that white people particularly have privilege, and also the closer you are to being white, as in presumably the paler your skin, the more privilege you have. It's absolute bullshit. Excuse the French. Hope no kids are in the room. There's in the UK, I can't speak for America, but there's definitely a class system. So people do have privilege if they're from, the upper middle class or the upper class or whatever. They get things handed to them on a plate. So I can see there is that. But I think that's the same in America too. I think there are very rich families of all different ethnicities. There were plenty, if we're talking about in America, the slave days, there were plenty of black slave owners. The richest, I'm sure the first official owner of slaves was black, and also the richest, or the one who had the most black slaves, was black. It had nothing to do with the color of the skin. It had everything to do with whether you had money or not. So there's that. Anyway, I'm going off on one again. So it did make me laugh that Lola Bean Yarn Co. would say that, because it's just that whole chip on the shoulder thing. It's like, ooh, if you're not going to invite us to your table, well, we need to create our own table. Well, that's what everybody has to do. How often do you get invited to be part of something? Look at us now. They don't want us at their table, do they? So we've created our own table. This is it. All our community is our own table. So we are asking for your continued support, and this means investing in Radical Threads magazine. Our friends at Lola Bean Yarn are phenomenal and have chosen Radical Threads magazine as their cause of the quarter. We hope that this will encourage you to generously contribute and help us with the next chapter of Radical Threads magazine. Right. Well, the cause of the quarter for Lola Bean, that's a whole other episode, I think. But remember that. So Lola Bean Yarn Co. Chose this as their cause of the quarter. So then if we look at these are the top contributors to the GoFundMe. There were 267 altogether. And the person who gave the most money was Dammy Hunter, who I believe is what are they called? Spin? Is it Spin Cycle? No, Magpie. I think they're Magpie Fibers. Or are they the same? Are they the same people? I don't know. I get confused. And she always gives thousands to any of these, ethnic-based fundraisers. I'm not sure who Elizabeth Desamour is. I don't know whether that's the Radical Threads lady, one of them, the black lady. I think that might be her. But then if we look down, Adela Colvin, $706. Adela Colvin, $610. Adela Colvin, $546. Adela Colvin, $383. Adela Colvin, $296. Adela Colvin, $279. Adela Colvin, $207. So Adela really wanted them to have this money. Now, at first you might think, wow, Adela's being generous, And also, Fatima Hines is there, $375. And until you realize where that money has come from. So that's not Adela's money. She didn't put her money into this. What it is, so for example, did I put the screenshots on? Oh, do you know what? I didn't do it. But I do have the evidence of this, so I can share this later. So a little bit like the $10 or £10, whatever it was that Pirate Tomsky gave to me before. It's that she gets. So all of the they got badges on Instagram at the time, didn't they? I never did it, so I don't know. They got badges, and also she was given things to kind of raffle off, like prizes and things like that. And the money that was raised from that is what she donated to this fund. So she didn't give a penny of her own money, if that makes sense. I suppose it kind of becomes her money, doesn't it, in one way? But she didn't have that money in the first place. That's what I'm trying to explain. So it's like now, if I gave £10 or $10, whatever it was, to a charity, and it's that money that Tomsky gave me, Tomsky's given that money to the charity, not me, because he gave it to me. So do you know what I mean? So all of this generosity is a bit, I don't know whether anyone can add that up in the head, how much she actually gave in total from, other people, basically. But then it made me wonder, because this was one of the things of the quarter. And I suspect that Lola Bean Yarn Company thought, why should they get all that money from doing that? We can do the same. We can do it. And that's what I think her cash grab was about when she did her fundraiser. Anyway, let me go back again. So that was the fundraiser when they were struggling in the middle. And then again, when it came to issue 5, they're still struggling. So now they can't afford to print issue 5. So issue 5, although I could not find it anywhere, so I don't know whether they ever did release it, issue 5 was only going to be a PDF. Sorry, what's this? It might have been nicer if it had been referenced to the fundraisers. Not quite sure what you mean there. Yeah, and this is exactly it. Saving themselves by begging other people for the money to stay afloat. Yeah, so basically they've done this 3 times, because although you think, $59,000 so far, you think that would be enough. Oh no, it carries on. So then they want people to be a sponsor. So they didn't actually say how much that was going to cost people, though. So and this was all done through their website and behind the scenes. So there's no accounting for it on out, for us as an outsider, we don't know. But if you think about it, they were advertising for bricks and mortar shops to stock the magazines. Now, I think the way it worked is that I don't know this, by the way, I have to stress that I think this, so I don't know it for sure. But I think that the model that they used was that the bricks and mortar store had to buy all those magazines, maybe for a little bit of a discount. Whereas sometimes things like that can be stocked in a shop and they only get the money if they sell. And at the end of the period of time that they've got to sell it, if they haven't sold, they get sent back. So, when I worked in a wool shop, that was how that particular wool shop dealt with hand-dyed yarn. So because it was kind of a very high value, a luxury item, if you like, rather than the, basic workhorse yarns, they were £30 each, this, and that's a lot back then as well. So we're talking getting on for $40 a skein now. And, if they didn't sell, they just got sent back to the yarn dyer, and then they tried to sell them on, or they put them in a sale or whatever. The actual yarn store didn't pay for them, and they just got a little percentage of the sale if the sale was made. So I don't think that was the model that Radicle Threads were using. I think they had to buy them. And I know that people like Fatima Hines, who's fleecing the Disturbed. Oh, sorry, disturbing the fleece. Silly me. I know that she bought quite a lot of them, as did Lola Bean Yarn Co., and neither of them could shift them. So Fatima Hines was, trying to peddle them for months, trying to get people to buy them, and she had a whole stack of them. So they weren't as popular as they thought they were going to be. And the thing about magazines, I mean, I knew this from because I've been a comic collector for years. I don't read them so much now, but I've known for years that the first issue of a comic usually sells incredibly. The second issue usually doesn't sell. So when when people buy comics and they think they're going to be valuable years later, the one to buy is issue number 2, because there's never as many of issue number 2 printed as there are number 1. Because people buy number 1 thinking it's going to be worth something. Well, it possibly will be, depending on what it is. And the old days, it was like Superman, Spider-Man, things like that. Whereas now, though, the way the world is, it doesn't work the same way. So always get issue 2. So issue 2 will always be a disappointment when you've done well with issue 1. Now, I bet they didn't realise that. So when it came to issue 2, their numbers would have been like in the gutter, because people had bought the original one. The same thing happened with Rib magazine. Does everyone remember Rib magazine that was aimed at men? The first issue, everybody went out and bought. Well, I say everybody, I got one. It was really, really popular. Then the second issue, bombed. And I think it's because they weren't prepared for that. It's the same with Block magazine. The first issue, I can't even remember how many thousands. It was a lot. We started, I think, are we getting on for nearly 4? I think the first issue had 40,000 readers. Then the second issue, I think, was getting on for 20,000 readers. But I knew to predict that. I knew that was happening because it's the novelty. And I had the notoriety with it as well, because I knew that first issue, everybody, would want it for, the so-called racism and the drama and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there was definitely a bit of bad management going on here. And they were continually begging. I think it was kind of embarrassing, really. Let me just see where I'm up to with these slides. I've shown you these, haven't I? Yep, I've shown those. So they did the 17,000. They're all the things from Lola Bean, Stroke Adela. And then finally, and I'm surprised I missed this, because, normally, people tell me things but nobody saw this. So when was it? It's a couple of months ago, isn't it? It was earlier this year. They finally said that issue 5 will be released as a digital-only issue. And once it is out, we will be closing all production. So while this marks the end of Radicle Threads, let me make that bigger again, excuse me a second. While this marks the end of Radicle Threads in its current form, our website, patterns, OLN, don't know what that is, and other resources will remain available. We hope that in the future, we can find a way to continue being a platform that uplifts in the fibre industry. However, at this time, it is not financially possible to do so. While none of the editors have ever profited from this project, taking no salary, we have always prioritized fair compensation for all contributors. Unfortunately, increasing financial constraints have made this impossible. Some of the challenges we've faced include printing costs. They've quadrupled, apparently. I wonder about this, because one of the things that has come out about this was that they wanted a BIMP printer. Now, the problem with that is that I think a lot of these radical, I don't mean that, no pun intended there with radical threads, but a lot of these radical black supremacist business people, they overinflate their prices because they think that everybody else gets more money than they do. They genuinely think that they get paid less. So I think that the BIMP printer probably charged a hell of a lot more, quadruple what the white or whichever ethnicity they didn't like was going to charge them. So, because if you look, they quadrupled since the first issue. Well, did they see an opportunity to charge more? Why did that happen? Why didn't they go elsewhere? Clearly, it's because there wasn't a BIMP printer that would do it for the price that was reasonable. Because they've remained committed to working with the BIMP and finding a new one that aligns with their values while remaining within our financial means has proven incredibly difficult. Well, that kind of says it all, doesn't it? If you weren't racist and black supremacist, you might still have a magazine. If you'd have swallowed your pride and gone to, I don't know, a Thai printer or an English printer or whatever, you might have a magazine still. Overseas shipping costs have drastically increased. I do believe that's true. But then, what you would do in that instance is that gets passed on to your consumer. So, that would become the consumer's problem then, and then they could decide whether to buy it or not. So what they did there was took that away from the consumer to decide for themselves. And then the closure of our distributor has significantly impacted our ability to continue. So I don't know who their distributor was. Not sure who that was. But one of the, I'll just read this one out before. Remind me to talk about Issue, ISSUU, I think they're called. So as we say goodbye to Radical Threads, we urge you to continue supporting BIMP, not just in February, which is BIMP month, isn't it, in America, but year-round. The fibre industry thrives when diverse voices are uplifted. Does it? I don't know. Can you give some examples of that? I don't know. Intentional and ongoing support is critical, especially in today's climate. We are incredibly grateful for 5 amazing years of community, blah, 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 blah. We truly hope to return in some way in the future. Final shop update. All items in our shop are discounted until we can liquidate inventory. Print copies of issue 4 are available and ready to ship. Digital versions of all 4 past issues remain available for purchase. So when I went onto their website, and they have, I was quite surprised, the digital version, you can actually click on it and it will open the first page, exactly like Block Magazine does. Now, what I thought was quite interesting about this was that when I released Block Magazine, I started with the magazine software that opens the pages and all of that. That's Yumpu is who I started with. And within days of releasing the first issue, there was the huge campaign to get it taken down. So, it's a kind of long story. We've talked about it a few times, but the way the system worked, Yumpu is based in Austria in Europe, and they work 9 to 5 Austrian time. So that's an hour later than my time in England. And the way it worked at the time, it's different now, but if somebody raised a complaint and said that there was something in the magazine or the publication that was inappropriate, there wasn't a human dealing with that. If they reported it after hours, which it would have been in America, right? If somebody is up in the day in America, it's going to be probably closed in Austria. They automatically took that publication down until a human being was able to review it and decide whether there was actually anything, wrong with it. Now, I didn't know that at the beginning. I didn't know that that's how it worked. So, what they did is they did it on a Friday night because they knew that it would have the maximum impact, which meant that Block Magazine issue 1 went completely offline for a whole weekend. So during that weekend, I was trying, not knowing what had actually happened, trying to get it back up and running. So I went to other online publishing magazines and I created I created one which I can't remember what the name of it was now. I re-released it and I sent the message out. We've got it re-released on this platform. Well, they did exactly the same there and got that one taken down. And then the third one that I tried was Issuu, ISSUU, I think it was. And anyway, they're the only ones that actually replied to me when I questioned why that got taken down. And they said, because you've got racist content in the magazine. And I asked them, well, where is it? And they just never responded. And then now, I didn't know this, but they were on that platform, but I didn't know that. So I don't know exactly what went on there. So is Issuu, ISSW, are they a BBIMP company? So for all I know, they may be, and that's why they sided with the idiots saying that it was racist. Because another thing that's become apparent to me now is at the time, because you don't know what's happening. Oh, I did get it back up and running, by the way. But there's a pattern that has emerged with a certain yarn dyer. So I'm going to say allegedly, because I know stories of old about this particular yarn dyer where when somebody else comes along who dyes yarn, when she was using her old business name, she would accuse them of plagiarizing her yarn colors, and she would turn that little group, because this is before things got really big, she would turn everybody against that dyer. Now, I know two dyers that wanted to commit suicide. Two separate people contacted me to tell me these stories over this. It was so bad for them at the time that they considered suicide. Because the thing to remember is these people, it was their income, and if their income goes, what are they going to do? So that had happened. And then it dawned on me after. I thought, oh, do you know what? This person was absolutely desperate for this magazine to continue. And if you look at all the money that was pumped in by this individual, and when this other magazine comes along, and she knows that it's going to be highlighting all of the shit that she's done, that has to be stopped. So that's why her and her husband got the people, what are they called now? This isn't allegedly, because I have the evidence, so I can say this. Gary Boston, Adrian Biorci, Dina Marconi. Is that it? Yeah, those three initially. Why they did the campaign, which basically they did a good job of it. They are the reason why people say that my magazine is racist and white supremacist, for no other reason than those three people. Now, they were instructed to do that by Jimmy Colvin, who is Adela Colvin's husband. So there's a pattern that forms. So when anybody threatens Adela's world, I'm naming her now. I don't give a shit, actually. I don't know why I was pretending not to name her before everyone knows what I'm talking about. When anybody threatens her world or, is a competitor in any way, she goes out of her way to destroy them. And last time I did a live, we talked about that Arcane Fiber Works guy who's a yarn dyer. Well, he's far more successful than Lola Bean Yarn Co. and Adela. Far more successful. He is probably at the moment, there might be others that I don't know, he is quite possibly the most popular and successful indie dyer out there today. And her sales are completely down. She's having to sell stock at reduced prices, and other people are selling her stock at reduced prices. So it would be in her interests to try and destroy him. So the easiest way to do that, because of how she set up, everything about me being a racist and so on, is to create a link between me and Arcane Fiberworks so that people will cancel Arcane Fiberworks. And the reason why I believe that it's her is because one of the comments that the person who posted that stuff from the last episode said, say it with your whole chest. Well, that is a phrase that the Colvins use a lot. And I have never heard anybody apart from the Colvins and Gigi use that phrase. Now, it might be an Americanism that I've never, I haven't heard much. So granted, it might be that. And, so it's my belief, allegedly, because I can't prove it, but it's my belief that it was one of the Colvins that posted that whole nonsense about Arcane Fiber Works to try and destroy his business. And all these things are kind of linked together. It's kind of ironic, really, in a weird way. But anyway, so going back to Radical Threads, just a little bit about Shoba. Shoba is the only one that I think I have any issue with, really, because Shoba, I've seen her a lot talking to Adela, and she hates white people. It's so obvious she hates white people. And, I do think it's quite funny that the exact people that accuse me of being a racist white supremacist are racist black supremacists. So they always say, don't they, the people accusing you are telling you what they do. That's kind of how that works. So I've got a few more comments coming. So let me just have a quick look at that. Travel Lorry said just that one screen totals over $3,000 from Adela. So that was from the GoFundMe. Yeah, so bear in mind, though, that wasn't money that she took out of her bank account. That was money that people gave her for the pleasure of listening to her slagging people off on Instagram. The donations, instead of using her name, it could have been customers. I see what you mean. Right. Because before I didn't know what Hallowed Angel meant. So she said before it might have been nice if it had referenced the fundraisers. Yeah, but what she meant by that was, rather than it saying Lola Bean Yarn Co., it should have said customers of Lola. Yeah, that would have been fair, wouldn't it? And then here, Travelori says again, I have never seen anybody on YouTube or Instagram have pictures of an actual copy of this or give a review. Well, I mean, I can't say for sure, but you know what I think has happened here? This is just me making shit up now. So, I don't have evidence of this. But I think what they thought was going to happen was that white people were going to buy that magazine and eat it up. You know what I mean? I think they thought that we were going to be all falling over ourselves to throw money at them and buy this magazine. And I think they assumed that white people would buy that magazine for the babimps. Because the radical babimps, the ones, who the BLM lot and all of that, they were all about getting money, not giving money. They wouldn't have wanted to buy this magazine. They wanted it for free, I reckon. So I think that what happened then, because I know that Lola Bean Yarn, she did a post at one point where I shared it on my Instagram. So although she's deleted it, I know that I've got it in the Block magazine or my United Kingdom Instagram. I don't know which one it is, where basically she's having a go at people for not supporting it. And it's like, well, you've been racist to these people. Why do you think they're going to buy your sodding magazine? The racist magazine that they have got no chance in hell of being in, contributing to, or, you couldn't, I don't even think you could advertise in it if you weren't, babimp in some way. What's that? I finished it before it was removed. Nice try, suckers. Oh, was that the first issue of Block magazine? Adam's here. Hi, Adam. You haven't done any puns yet, have you? So, sorry, I'm just reading. That's the word, confession by projection. That's what I was talking about before. Yeah, so they call me racist, and it's because they are racist. And Hello Danger says, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I can say it was in the few shops I've been in here in Lefty Land. But were they on the shelf, though, still? Like, did anybody actually buy them? That's the thing. Because I do wonder whether people... Oh, yeah. Babimp. It's the new acronym that you have to use. So it's black, brown, indigenous, melanated people, but it's too much of a mouthful, so I'd rather just say babimp. Or some people say blimp, because when you misread it quick, it looks like blimp, doesn't it? Oh, Adam, brilliant. I'm waiting for the pun of the day, that's it. Yeah, so we should do the funeral march for Radicle Threads. So they've gone now. Whether they'll ever come back, who knows? So who made all the money? That's the question. So there was a lot of money that went into that magazine in one way or another. And, oh, that's big. That's better. But, yeah, so let's talk about Block Magazine for a minute. So here's the thing about setting up a magazine. So if anyone else is thinking of doing it, do it. Feel free. Don't feel like you can't set up a magazine because I've got one or whatever. It's more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. The model that I chose was to do a free magazine. Now, I kind of know what we're all like. I did think about it for quite a long time before, although it was a bit of a spur of the moment decision to start Blocks. I did think about it for quite a long time, but I didn't know how I would ever get it seen. So it was something I was thinking about when I was working in the yarn store. I was thinking, they need some kind of a magazine that isn't going to go under. And the only way a magazine isn't going to go under is if it doesn't have many overheads. If you keep it as cheap and cheerful as possible, it's likely to last longer. So the model that I went down was voluntary patronage, if you like. And it was quite low. I think my starting one was $5, I think it is. So if you're a patron, it might even be cheaper than that. I think it might be, I'm not even sure. I think it's £3, is it? Which is $5. I think. I might be wrong. I can't remember because it was 4 years ago. I've not done anything with it since. And I do have higher tiers. And for that, now at this moment in time, it's kind of like selling advertising space. But most of the patrons don't want the advertising space. And I can see why, because if they do, they get attacked by, the idiots. They get put on blacklists. So it's the people that do advertising Blocked are the ones that have already been blacklisted, So that's why that works. But so I give the magazine away, and a lot of people think it's stupid. But even if I charged $1, the readership would plummet. And I know that sounds weird, but it would. And the other thing is that one of the criticisms that I get, I had this criticism in Craftsnag or Bit Cheating Crafters only today, actually. There's a bad penny who kind of keeps popping up all the time called Countess de Asbo. And she writes poison pen letters nonstop. And, she made this comment, she's always saying about, amateur publications, and it's aimed at me, because she's obsessed with it and hates me. And it's like, yeah, my magazine is amateur. I'm an amateur at it, but so what? But I've done it, you know what I mean? I created it, and I didn't have to, grift and steal money off people to do it. And, the people that do put towards the Patreon are because they believe in the principle of what we're doing, what the magazine is for. And it will evolve, and it has evolved so far, and it will continue to evolve. It will change. Whether I very much doubt we'll ever have a hard copy, regular publication. I am looking at maybe doing like, do they call them omnibus editions? I was looking at that quite a lot last year. But I came up against a few formatting issues for a start. I need to sit down with BS who does the layouts, because I think we will have to relay out everything, which I'd need to discuss with her whether it's even worth doing that. But then that would be chargeable, because it would be like a book of perhaps 6. We was thinking of doing it like yearly, so year 1, year 2, year 3. So we've got 3 full years so far, so there would be 3 of them. But again, they were quite a hefty price to have printed. So I'm kind of thinking, well, do we do it? What's the point, really? Because I know some people would do it to support Block Magazine. I know they would do that. So we'll probably just carry on as we are for the time being. But I am one of the things that I do want to stress with Radicle Threads is that although, I think they are racist, black supremacist pieces of shit, I'm not happy that their magazine failed because, you know, it makes me aware that at some point in the future, my magazine will stop. Whether that's because I choose not to do it anymore or whether it's because people don't read it anymore. You know, I might get cancelled by, you know, people who are subscribing now. I don't know how it would how it would go. Adam, yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether I'm uncancelable, but I am unjabbed, definitely. So yeah, so I don't take. I'm not mocking them for that because you know it will happen to Block Magazine one day. You know it can't go on forever. So yeah, so there is that. I'm trying to think what else there is to talk about. So what have I done? I've done my knitting stuff. I've done my crochet stuff. I've done my purchases. Talked about Radical Threads. I think that might be about everything. I think. Any questions before? Oh, make orange great again. I've talked about that. Did I talk about that? Yes, I did. Quick scan through the comments. I presume Rich is your husband or partner. Just saw you and said, "Yo, Santa, you're off the list. You won't get a present now." Yeah, I think that's about it for this time, isn't it? So things that are coming up, Nittler and Traditha, I think it's going to be Friday. Don't quote me on that because I need to speak to Tabitha about it. We've got Knit Night on Monday night. That's coming up. I'm not sure whether I'll be on. No idea. And is Knitting Wars back this week? Oh, tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I was only joking. If he leaves out an extra mince pie and a carrot for, you know, the reindeers, he'll be okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Emily. I do think when I'm on my own, I worry that I completely waffle. It's actually harder to do this on your own. You know, like when I see people like Tabitha and Sean are doing it on their own and they're doing it so well, and I think, wow, how do they do that? Oh, Shark Week is soon. Yes, Adam, Shark Week is soon. Don't ask me when. No idea. The next issue of Blocked. God, I'm completely forgetting about my own magazine here. Yeah, we're currently working on the next issue. We've delayed the release of it by a week. Yeah, I'm going to do a GoFundMe because I want $17,000 to release it. No, I don't. No, we're going to wait a week because there's a couple of people that need to finish some things that I really want to be in that issue. And so there's somebody desperately trying to finish a knitted item for it. And I feel so sorry for her. She's done so much work on it. And there's a couple of articles that I think are going to need a little bit extra time, including the one I've got to write because I haven't even done that yet. Because I'm waiting. I've got to get this pattern, this knitted thing done for my mum for her birthday. Once that's done, I can focus back on what I've got to do there. So yeah, it's probably going to be released generally at the end of the first week of July. And if you're a patron, I'm hoping to get the preview to you by the last day of June, possibly the 1st of July. It should be, you know, it's going to be a week later than normal, basically. We hope. Next theme for the magazine. Thank you, Laurie. Do you want a job as a PA? You don't get paid. So the theme for the upcoming magazine is Hoist the Colours. So it's kind of a bit of a fuck you to Pride, excuse the French. So there's going to be, it's a very wide interpretation for this one. So we've got things to do with pirates, Hoist the Colours, you know, as in the skull and crossbones. We've got things to do with sailing, but we've also got things to do with flags, just in general. We've also got things to do with the colours of movements. So when I don't mean bowel movements, so I mean like, well, I may as well. Should I say? I don't know. Well, you know how the Pride Mafia has different colours for everything. You know, there's one movement of, it's not a Pride thing, but there is one that I do support and recommend other people support it. So that will be in there. Oh yes, and what day is Flag Day? Is that today by any chance? So yeah, in the US you've got Flag Day, so it all kind of fits in with Oh, we've also got yes, Mum and Evan, thank you. Yeah, so it's today. Yeah, so my mind's just gone blank. Oh yes, Pirate Tomsky, who was, I don't know if the pirate's still here. There's going to be an hilarious piece by him. It's only going to be small, short piece, but I asked him, I gave him a list. I don't mind, it's not giving too much away by saying this. I gave him a list of knitting and crochet terms and just said, could you explain what they are without looking them up? So this is a non-knitting male's interpretation of knitting terms. And let's just say it's quite funny indeed. What was interesting was the ones that he got a couple right. Well, near enough right, which was quite funny. So, yeah, so the Cals and Mals. So not only do we have Make Orange Great Again. So now you're really testing my memory now. So I'll do the ones I'm involved with first, because they're the most important. We've also got Knits in White Satin, which starts on the 1st of July. So that is anything in white. And don't ask if it's white. If you have to ask, it isn't white. You know what the color white is, everybody. So, but it can only be white. So whatever you make, it can be any technique, crochet, knitting, spinning, whatever you want to do. It's got to be white though. And it can be as big or small as you like. There will be a prize. We are working that out at the moment. So one thing I do know is that Chicken Lady, there'll be a prize from Chicken Lady. There'll be probably a brilliant prize from Tabitha. And if I can afford it, there'll be a prize from me, because after I've done the Make Orange Great Again, I'll probably be skint. So there's that one. So there's, brilliant. Got my little helpers, thank you. There's Summer on the, do you say lanai? Is it lanai? I don't know how you pronounce that. So I believe it's a porch. Is it a front porch? So the Summer on the lanai, which is quite a fun one, because that's based on the Golden Girls. So I'm interpreting it a little bit like an 80s thing. So I'm entering my mum's sweater, the bright coloured square one, for that, because it kind of is a bit 80s and Golden Girls to me. I don't know the dates. You'll have to go and look, but that's being hosted by Amy of Two Sisters of Some Yarn. There's Knit with Joan. Now, I think Joan has very, very... Sorry, Joan. I almost said has very loose morals. Sorry, Joan. When you're getting tired and the word you kind of have a split second to say the word before it comes out. I meant to say loose rules. Sorry, Joan's never going to forgive me for this. Joan's been doing loads of work on this for me, by the way. So I've probably just lost my main mal help. Yeah. So Joan's mal is kind of connected to the ending of Joanne's, isn't it? So she said, even though Joanne's has finished, you can still knit with Joan. She just took the letter away. And I think any project for that one, and I think you just join in, basically. And we've got Summer of Murder. That's the annual one that Tabitha does. And I think the rules for that are that you have to be watching true crime or Tabitha. You have to show that while you're knitting, you're either watching true crime. I don't think it can be fiction crime. It has to be real crime. Then the Shark Week. Somebody's ringing me. Oh, I never remember to turn it off. So the Shark Week, which can I do this? Did I do that then? I think I did. Yeah, so Shark Week, that's coming up, which is always a fun one. So that's been hosted by Politically Incorrect Knitters. And you have a week to knit a project. You have to declare what you are going to knit. And if you don't finish it within the week, then you have to rip it out. And you have to film it or prove that you've ripped it out. So have we done them all? There are other ones. I know there's a sock one as well. And... there was. I'm trying to picture the list in my mind. Can't remember anymore. Sorry, everybody. So that's all it for the Mals and Carls. And I think with most of it, I think you can double dip. But obviously, The ones that are a bit stricter, so the orange one, the Make Orange Great Again, you have to have 50% orange. You obviously can't double dip with the white one, and the white one has to be 100% white. So unless you're making white socks, you won't be able to double dip with that. And probably, yeah, it's probably because I mentioned Adela. They're probably saying, "You've doxed Adela, you've doxed her." Yeah, it's when they bash down the door that I'll worry. Oh, Adam's just asking me, I've been watching Sergeant Crib recently. Remember that? I don't remember that from the early 80s. No. I was probably drunk in the early 80s. No, I wasn't. So, right, I think that's it now. I really am just waffling and talking rubbish, and I need to find out who's ringing me. So, thank you very much for watching. And not sure when I'll be doing the next one. But everybody watching,
you've been blocked.